so much, Mr. Ado, on that. And I would like to ask, is all debt bad? Or can some types of debt be considered good debt?
Yeah, I think it's a very important question. Well, financial expense classified debt into two.
Okay.
Some we call good debt and some bad debt. Now, for good debt, that is borrowing money to invest in financial assets that will eventually yield income for you,
Okay.
or something that in the long term will bring benefit to you.
Okay.
So in that case, it becomes a good borrowing, which will eventually become a good debt. But what do you use these borrowings for if you want to invest? In the end, whilst you invest in real estate, eventually it is a long term. You borrow to do. It is not bad. It is not bad at all. It is a good investment that you are doing. If you borrow to fund your education, in the long term, you will benefit. It is also a good borrowing. But what is dangerous is about the bad debt. That is borrowing to feed on consumption. Many people borrow to buy food because they are in distress. They go and borrow to pay their rent, to go and borrow even to buy cars. Why is it bad to borrow in such a way that you invest in asset that depreciates? Car, of course, I know people take loan to buy a car, but car depreciates. And so if you do not balance your life well, when it comes to maintenance of the car, it becomes a problem for you. And so it is important that we set this distinction so that we know that not all debts are bad. Some debts are good if you are an entrepreneur. And I can tell you for sure in this country, we, the medium income earners, we save, and the rich people, they go and borrow and invest. And they make huge returns in the end. That is good borrowing. And so whilst we have distinguished between good and bad debt, it is important that at least we all know where we fit.
Sure. Thank you so much. Meaning that as young adults, we can sit and plan properly and get debts that will let us grow.
Of course.
Sure. Thank you so much. One more question, then we can have a break and then come back. What mistakes do people make when trying to get out of debt?
Oh, okay. Well, the first mistake people make when they want to get out of debt is not even realizing that they are in debt.
Okay.
Because first of all, you need to realize that you are in debt.
Okay.
And so the first mistake that people make is whilst they are in debt and they have now understood that they want to come out of the debt, they try to engage in more debt to kill the debt that they have.
Sure.
That is a very dangerous thing to do. When you are in debt, first of all, you need to avoid the situation whereby you also want to borrow to kill the first debt. In advanced countries whereby interest rates are lower, I know people, they try to be smart, open new accounts, engage banks to pay them out of the existing loan. Of course, if the existing loan is having a higher interest and you have a lower interest that the bank can give you and you want the bank to pay you off, I know people do this. But when you do not have this opportunity, it is very risky to use more debt to pay another debt. So that is the mistake that a lot of people make. The other mistake that other people also make is the fact that having realized that you are in debt and you want to come out, we want to evenly spread our payment against all debts. That is a very dangerous thing. So normally what we advise people is, okay, you have identified the list of debts that you have. Don't make the mistake of applying the repayment to all debts, because it can be that there is a debt that has a huge interest. There can also be debt that can be paid off easily. There are small debts that you can easily pay off. So don't be spreading evenly the amount that you want to pay off against all your debt. It is very dangerous to do. When you apply your repayment against high interest bearing debts, in the long run, you save. Let me give you a typical example. You see, when you go to the bank to borrow, and they give you about 5 years, which is about 60 months to pay, you are indebted to the bank. It is important that you plan in such a way that by the third year,
Yeah.
you try to pay off your loan. And this is a smart way of planning and paying off your debt. If you run to the bank and you tell them that I want to pay off my loan, the only thing they will do is to let you pay 1 month penalty. I have done it before.
Okay.
And the calculation I did, I had a 5-year loan to pay. I planned in such a way that by the third year, I decided to pay it off.
Okay.
And so when I paid off, I can tell you that the calculation that I did, I saved a lot of interest.
Oh.
So it is important that you know some of these things, and then it helps. The other mistake people also make is when they are in debt and they want to pay off, they want to, as it were, shut down all their emergency account. That is a very dangerous thing to do. Because yes, we understand that you owe, you are in debt, you want to pay off your debt.
Yeah.
But then it's like you want to commit everything into paying your debt. That is so dangerous, because in the end, if something happens to you that you have to lean on your emergency fund, you have nothing. And that is so dangerous. If your war school fees are supposed to be paid and you use all the fund to pay off your debt, you run into another debt because you have to satisfy your children's fees. And that is a very dangerous thing that people do. You can also have emergencies in terms of your health situation. So don't make these mistakes, and then in the end, once you are trying to come out of debt, you rather incur more debt. That is a very dangerous way of living. So I believe that with these ones that we've mentioned, yes, accept the fact that you are in debt,
Right.
and then you work around it. And let me mention this. It is a spiritual thing that I want to talk about. When people are in debt, they want to tell God that I cannot honor
The debt.
my tithe and offering.
Okay.
And that is very dangerous,
All
because you see, tithe is a commitment with God. It is a covenant that we have with the Lord. And so once I run into debt and I want to tell my maker that, well, God, you can hold on for me, let me settle all my debt, and then later I come to honor you, that is a very dangerous thing, because I believe that it is God that gives us the power to work and pay off all debt. And so whilst you are in debt, first of all, be faithful to God.
Good.
Honor your tithe and offering, and God will definitely pave a way for you to be able to pay all your debt. So it is very, very important that we do not make this mistake that because we are in debt, we want to do away with what God requires us to bring to Him. So as Christians, we need to make sure that we don't commit these mistakes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ado. As Christians, we need to be faithful to God in our tithes and offering. And then that will be a stepping stone for us correcting ourselves and coming out of debt. At this point, I want to remember or remind followers and viewers that we have Abiam's Maske sponsoring this show, and then also Trade Network and Logistics Services Ghana Limited, and also in Dubai sponsoring this show. If you want to get in touch with Abiam's, you call them on 0240324633 and then 0244817405 for Trade Networks Logistics Services. We will continue with our discussion, but here is something that the Lord says in Proverbs chapter 22, verse 26 to 27. It says, Proverbs chapter 22, verse 7, it says, the rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is the slave of the lender.
Of course.
Debt limits freedom. Debt limits freedom. So he says that we should try to avoid it. We should try to avoid it. Mr. Ado, then I would like to ask us, we are building up and trying to get ourselves out of debt. What are practical first steps someone can take to become debt-free? I want this one specific so that we can take it from there.
Okay, so there are various steps that you need to consider when you have admitted that you are in abject debt and you want to come out of it. You see, there is a difference between being in debt and having the willingness to come out. There are people who are in debt, they don't care, they run away from their lenders, they do not have that kind of the willpower to come out of it. We are talking about those who are ready to come out of this debt. So if you are in debt, it is not something that is a crime. You can come out of it. The first thing to do is to, first of all, you need to have a list of all the debts that you have. And then the corresponding amount, those that you owe, the exact amount that you owe, and the corresponding interest. This is so important. Now, when you have had this list of debts that you have, then you need to have a strategy of paying off. So that strategy of paying off is the most important thing. And so when you have had that kind of listing, there will be some debts which are lower. There will be some debts which the interest rate is so high. There will be some debts which are huge, but the interest rate are so less as compared to others. So when you have had this, have a strategy of paying off this debt. You can also reach out to your lender, especially as when you are paying off your debt, you need to also honor some responsibilities that I have talked about. So you want to come out, engage your lender. Let him understand your situation. He can spread for you in terms of installment, and then at least the minimum amount that every month you have to pay, you need to make sure that you honor them without fail. You see, when you commit to something, you need to make sure that you honor it. The Proverbs that you just read, it is a very important thing that we have to take it serious as Christians. So for me, once you want to come out of debt, it is up to you to accept that you are in debt. Engage your lender. Make sure that whatever debt that you have consistent plan of doing it. And once you have consistent plan of doing it, be conscious, be faithful in doing that. So that when you are faithful, you see, when you have committed to paying your debt and consistently you are faithful, and along the way something happens and you are unable to honor, first of all, you need to preempt your lender that, in fact, the way I have set out things, it looks like this month things will be difficult for me. Kindly give me the opportunity to work around so that next time or next month I can do it. I believe that we are all human beings. When we try to take this approach, I can tell you that we will be able to come out of our debt and we will live a debt-free life. For me, that is so important.
Thank you so much. So the thing I've learned from it, that even if it's with the banks and you make an effort to approach them, that this is it. I want a new plan of a sort to carry out. It gives you the leverage.
For me, of course. They will give you that kind of leverage for you to be able to pay. The dangerous thing is when you owe and you want to run away. It has a lot of ramifications.
Thank you so much. We want to delve into the family a little bit. How can families teach children and teenagers healthy money habits early in life?
Wow. I was listening to one financial expert, and then he talked about this being a culture. When you go to Asia, Japan, and other countries, they inculcate this right from the beginning of their children. So 3 years, they try to teach them the essence of healthy financial living. And so for me, we need to teach our children. It's also important. We need to let them understand what it means to save, what it means to spend, what it means to give. Now, when our children are taught this way, they know that the little that they have, they need to save. And when they save, or whatever amount that we give them, we need to seek accountability from them. Because many a times we give money to our children, they just spend anyhow, and then we think they are young. But the truth is that whatever you learn from the early stages, that is what you will grow with. So let us teach our children how to save. At least you can have a susu box in your house. The money that you give them for food, you can tell them that I am giving you this money every day for school. I am teaching you how to save. If it is 1 cedi and they put it in their susu box, and then at the end of the year you want to open it for them to know the amount that they have saved, it is something that is a culture that you are building in their minds.
Right.
So it is important we do. Also, we need to open our accounts for our children. Now, these accounts, though it is for their future, but then the account that we